several months ago, I actually reached out to the folks over at QFS, which is Quantum Fuel Systems, about their 525 liter per hour pump for Project Hellstang for this turbo setup. And so those guys were kind enough to actually send me out one of their Quantum 525 fuel pumps. This is basically kind of like a modified version of a stock Hellcat pump. They come with 525s from the freaking factory, right? And so this one is compatible with the 85. It's going to be freaking probably a little bit overkill maybe for what we're doing, but we are going to run E85. We also have 80-pound fuel injectors, so this should work really well. So we're going to get that installed today. They also sent me one of their, I think they call it a hot wire kit. So basically it's just a little bit larger gauge wire to be able to replace the factory stuff. I think what I'm ultimately going to do though is actually get a relay and run a relay to the trunk, and then we'll run some wiring, one wire back up to the battery. And look at this beat. And then we'll run the stock wire that goes into the pump. That'll be our trigger wire for the relay. That should make it a little bit simpler, a little bit easier. So we'll probably reuse this. I'm getting attacked by bees out here. So we'll end up reusing this connector here, and then we'll just kind of splice it all in, I think. Also, just for some other maintenance, this piece here, this goes from like the fuel filler neck into the gas tank. Mine leaks whenever the car gets like, more than 3/4 full. So we're gonna replace this while the tank's out. I also ended up picking up a new fuel filter, because who knows when the last time my stock one was replaced, and we want to make sure this thing can feed 500 horsepower, right? Also, I just ordered this last minute, just came yesterday. I was thinking, oh crap, while the gas tank's out, we should probably replace the fuel sending unit for the gas gauge. Mine works just fine, but again, the car is like 30 years old. It has 12,000 miles. This was like $40 or $50, so pretty cheap insurance. Just while we already got it out, we'll swap this in too. So we already did kind of the front fuel system, so we replaced from where the hard lines are in the engine bay to the fuel rails with all braided line. I think we did 6 AN for all that. For now, we can always upgrade it in the future, but the factory hard lines are kind of the limiting factor. So there's really no point to run 8 AN until we can upgrade those lines as well, but that'll be a ways in the future. Let's go ahead and let's get started tearing this thing apart. Holy crap, I almost forgot about the coolest thing. So the guys over at QFS, they actually sent me this awesome shirt. So check this thing out, right? It's got their Quantum logo, but check out the best part. It's got a sweet fox body on the back, baby. Yeah, so pick you up one of these too from QFS. And again, these pumps and stuff, these things are super affordable. I think this is like, this is actually a Mustang specific like install kit that comes with this. Their part number is QFS 525FT, but I think these are only around like $100, maybe a little less than $100, but you're getting a 525 liter per hour pump. So I mean, this thing should support 800 horsepower. I mean, it's a freaking beefy pump, right? So again, some of the other stuff, I'll go ahead and link the part numbers for like the fuel filter, this little guy, and this thing down below. This thing I just picked up off Amazon. So I'll put links for most of this stuff down in the description below if you're interested. All right, so coming under the car, there should be a pretty simple thing. I've watched a bunch of videos. Basically, we've just got 2 bolts for this strap, one here, one on the other side. That strap comes completely off. This one is on a hanger, so it just hangs down from here. So it's just 1 bolt, so that's 3 bolts total. We'll disconnect this connector up here. And then we've got just 1 more little bolt, I don't know, looks like 8mm or something, that's holding this little bracket here that connects to this fuel filler neck. So this is the rubber gasket part that I was showing you guys that we're going to replace. So it's kind of hard to see under here, but you can see mine moving. I mean, it is just completely ripped and shot. So yeah, we'll get these few bolts off. Then we're going to take a jack. I'm going to support the tank with the jack. We'll kind of support it more on this side so that we can slide it this way to get it disconnected out of this tube. And then we should be able to lower it down, and then we'll do our work. All right, so we got this tank dropped down. It was actually really, really simple. So you kind of saw me where we had to go this way, this side down, and then we were able to just push it over. And the tank is not super heavy. I was thinking this thing was going to be a freaking bear, but it's really no big deal at all, especially I'm here alone, 1 person. But yeah, so just slide it that way. That gives you enough room to get it off of this pipe here through this grommet. And you can see, guys, my grommet is it's just smoked. Look at that. It's just, Only the bottom's kind of sealing, right? But the top is just gone. So we'll get that replaced. So from this point, I also had to pull off this connector here. Yeah, I think so. I think this was up here. So got that off, so all the connectors are good. Now we just got to release the fuel lines. And then I also popped off this vent tube line. So this vent tube was just right there on the top. I just pulled it out. It just seemed easier to do that than to get it separated there. And now we just got to take off our 2 fuel lines. So these things, you're going to pull off these metal little connectors. These just help hold it together for safety. So you pry that off with a screwdriver. Usually you can get them off by hand, but this is tight. And then you've got to use a quick disconnect tool. So I've got like a whole set. So I'll figure out what size they are. I'll let you guys know. So this is a little set that I use that I got off Amazon. I think the link's down in the description below with all the crap we bought. But this set's freaking awesome. It was super cheap. And I think that our car is going to use probably the 3/8 and the 5/16. At least from what I remember, that's what it was up front at the hard rail lines. They're hard metal lines. So I'm going to give those a shot. Let's see if they work. And these things are super simple. You just literally like put them around the tube, put them in, and then it unlocks the little thing. So pretty simple. And you can also buy like this version here. I mean, it's like $5 or $8 from like any part store. So really simple if you don't want to buy the whole kit. All right, we got it all disconnected. And what I ended up using, I was able to use the smaller 5/16 on the big line because this fit. It had no clearance issues, but this wouldn't fit around the smaller line because this outside was like hitting, so I had to use this tool. So if you just have this tool, that'll disconnect both of them, 5/16 on both. Good to go. Now we can drag this unit out of here. Come on. Don't be scared. All right, dude. Got her out of there. So we'll probably blow this thing off. I'll plug this thing back up here. Just kind of clean it up a little bit, maybe spray it down. Yeah, just clean it up. So then we got to knock out the rings. So there's like some rings that spin. So usually they say use like a brass punch to do it. I'll have to see what I have. Otherwise you risk a little bit of a spark and maybe some blow up action. But all right, that's it. Let's get this thing apart, start swapping parts. All right, so that was it for this fuel sending unit. Really simple. Go ahead and mine knocked off really easily with just a screwdriver and hammer. There's no sparks or nothing. It was freaking easy. So came right off. Put the new one on. Just literally like it looked just like this one. So slides right out, pops back in, easy peasy. Just make sure you put your gasket on. You can see this old gasket still stuck to the bottom, and the new one came with the gasket. It also came with a different, came with 2 different like lock rings. It looked like this one, maybe this is for like a Fox body or something, and then this one had a little bit shorter, I don't know, little ears on it, so this wouldn't have worked, but they just give it to you, probably because it's kind of universal, whatever. But again, $50. Hopefully it works. Should be good now, brand new. So now let's go ahead and work on getting this pump out. We'll get this thing swapped. Here we have our old pump. So again, the guy just replaced this on my car like about a year ago. That's when I bought the car. So pumps, looks like it's in good shape. This whole sending unit, this whole unit's probably actually new. It looks pretty new. So yeah, so now we just got to go through and figure out how to get this QFS pump into here, and they give you a whole new saw, a whole new kit. So we got to figure all of it out. All right, now the first thing you might see when you're looking at this pump here, our replacement pump, is for one thing, the Mustang pump has a center inlet, right? So this one's offset because it's aftermarket, so that's going to be kind of one issue. Next, we've got how much bigger the bottom portion of this pump is, right? So this is not going to fit within our hanger here. So I'm going to have to modify the hanger. Probably what I'm going to do, I was looking around, Holley actually makes a 525 whole pump kit, and they kind of just have like one billet bracket like this that comes down. Doesn't even have another side, and then they just have it hose clamped, stainless steel hose clamped onto it. So I may keep both sides, and then I might just cut off the bottom portion here. And then I've got stainless steel zip ties, I've got clamps, so we'll probably make some notches in the side here so that it can really wrap around and get tight around the pump so it's held in place firmly, because it could potentially slide down, right, because we don't have a bottom. But so basically I think that's all we got to do. Cut the bottom, we can get the pump in there, comes with the hose, this should work, and then we just got to figure out the wiring. It does come with a little pigtail, and then we can just simply steal or put on some of these connectors here to be able to screw that back on. So shouldn't be too much work, but I'm gonna go ahead and mess with it, start cutting stuff up, get this thing apart, and I'll show you what I come up with. All right, so here's what we ended up with. So, like I said, I just ended up, I already threw it away, but I cut off a little bottom portion that went around, and you know, try to measure it also so it's the same kind of overall length and everything. We don't want to change, you know, where it picks up in the tank. So I'm pretty happy with that. I put 2 of these little stainless zip ties, but it wasn't quite tight enough. These stainless zip ties, you can't get them as tight as like a regular zip tie. So I put 1 more up here that's kind of going around the blue top, so that way it can't, you know, fall down. I mean, worst case, even if it slid down another ½ inch or whatever, it would hit this, so that way it can't completely fall at the bottom or anything. So now I've just got to put on the sock. So other than that, oh, I also did make some more notches for these, that way they could wrap around the body, because they already had some notches, but they didn't line up with what I needed. The hose that came with the QFS kit, I also was able to use that. It's a little bit long for how tall this pump is. You probably could have cut it a little bit, but I just got it how it was. It's really, really tight too, so it was hard to get on and off. So I didn't want to mess with it again. I used their wiring, but I did reuse, or no, I didn't reuse. I had some number 8 eyelets, which matched the original one. So I used all this stuff and just heat shrunk it back on there, and should be good to go. So pump should be good, get the sock on. And with the sock, so actually, like I was telling you guys before, the Mustang one has like a center inlet. So this is a side inlet. So this one basically just pops right on, and then this little star looking tab goes right over the end of this, and so it's kind of a push lock fit, so it won't come off. So I'm just going to get that pushed on, and then we're good. I'll probably take it, hook power and ground just for a quick second, just to jump it, just to make sure it actually works. And if it does, then we can install that in the tank and start doing the rest of the crap. All right, so the fuel pump went in pretty dang easy. Easier going in than it was coming out. But if you actually look through the hole here, through the side where this fill tube goes in, you can actually see there's kind of like a raised little area of metal where the pump actually sits into. So that way it keeps fuel from sloshing around. So looks perfect. It's all in there, the right orientation. The only thing with the QFS kit was the ring they gave me was the same, one of the same rings that came with this other one. So I think the reason might be that it's for Fox bodies. So I think maybe the Fox bodies, they use just a little bit different ring where it's a little bit wider in between the tabs. So it wouldn't work, but again, this one's not that old. It's only a year old anyway. So I just went and reused this one here. We're good to go. So now I'm going to go ahead and replace this gasket. So with getting this gasket in place, some of the videos I watched, the guys recommended lubing it up, you know, especially where that tube's going to go into. So I'm going to go ahead and just use a little bit of engine oil. This won't, you know, hurt the gas or anything. We'll just use a little bit of oil. We'll kind of lube it up on the where it goes and also on the inside. And then before we put it on, we'll lube up the actual fill tube as well. Hopefully it'll all slide in pretty good. Today's pretty hot outside, so we should be pretty good on this. This thing I had to fight with it a little bit, but as soon as you can get, you know, one little part in there and you just kind of push it, I would just use my hands. I didn't even have to use like a screwdriver or anything, but it does take a little bit of force. So keep messing with it. It goes right in. So tank's good to go. So next we need to do the fuel filter. All right, we got the fuel filter out. So this is my replacement. This is one I took out. It doesn't look too bad. Who knows how old it is though, right? So it comes with some new clips. And for this one, I didn't film it, but it's a really easy, uninstall. It's just, there's like a clamp. You just undo the screwdriver. And then there's a bracket. I couldn't get it out without taking the bracket off. So I just took out one bolt of the bracket, 8mm, swung it down. This thing fell right out. And then you don't need any special tools for the fuel line. Like I said, you just pull these white clips out and then you can just pop the line right off. So pretty easy. It's a little bit messy because you get fuel freaking going everywhere. So we're gonna go ahead and pop our new perlator back in. So F65455, that's the just a stock replacement one. So we'll get that pop back in, and then the messy part of this job's done. We just got some wiring to do later. And speaking of wiring, here is our little relay kit that I bought off Amazon. So this thing actually came same freaking day. So it's pretty awesome. It was about 30 bucks. Of course you could wire something like this yourself, but for 30 bucks, honestly, this is a pretty sweet kit. And I like this kit because it came with 10 gauge wire for the actual power, right? So what this is you've got your red wire. We're going to run this directly to our battery. We're just going to put it on one of these little magical posts here and then just run it down along the frame. Probably we'll tie it in, whatever. And then this is going to be our new power wire that's going to go to our fuel pump. So what we're going to do is, where's our connector? So this is our new connector. This is kind of the hot wire kit. It's still not quite big enough gauge, the power wire kit from QFS. But what we're going to do is I'm going to take it and we're just going to probably, we'll cut this wire back a little bit like here or something, and then we'll run that 10 gauge wire from that relay right here to this power wire. Now this ground wire, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut the ground a little bit back. We're going to run 10 gauge wire from here just to a dedicated chassis ground. You could also run this all the way back up to the front of the car, right to the battery, to the negative. But I think I've got a pretty good chassis ground under there. I also don't think I have enough enough length of wiring to run another 10 gauge. Now this kit gives you, I think this is like 10 feet of the red wire. So plenty of wire to go from all the way to the front of the car to the back. And then I think the orange wire, well, they call it orange, it's kind of pink. But anyway, I think this guy's like 6 feet long. So this is plenty. So this is the one I'm thinking where I'm going to be able to cut it and then I'll use that extra for the ground. Now what we're going to do with the stock wiring, so this would be the factory wiring that would go right into the pump right here. We're going to use the original power wire, which is like this, it's kind of like a pink with the black, or it's black with pink tracer, and then there's a black one, so that's the ground. So this one, we're just going to cut it. We're going to use this for the trigger wire. So this will go right here to this brown wire. This is the trigger wire, and then I'm going to use the factory ground, and I'm going to run that right to the ground for the relay. So pretty simple. I'm imagining that I have to get under the car and look, but I'm imagining this relay, I want it to live, somewhere right in the back of the car by the fuel tank, maybe next to the fuel filter, just somewhere where we have pretty easy access. Or I might actually pop the trunk too and see if it can live kind of somewhere in the trunk, because that would be pretty convenient if I could just pop the trunk, have access to the fuse, or to the relay, sorry. Now the fuse, this is also fused. So right here where this bad boy connects to the battery, it's got a 30 amp fuse in there right now. And so that'll be perfect. And then that kind of helps out because that way I've got easy access. I've already got actually this fuse right here, I think is for the pump and injectors from the Holly, because that actually has its own relay. It's just not a powerful enough wire that they've got, or big enough wire. And then I've got my ignition. So yeah, we'll kind of put that fuse. It'll be somewhere around there as well. So it all kind of lives there. But yeah, it should be pretty straightforward. Just got to, cut this, get that stuff all spliced together, and get some eyelets for the battery terminal. And then I need to find a big fat eyelet also under the car, and a ground under the car. Clean up the paint or anything that's on there so it's got a real good connection. And then that should be nice and solid. That way our power and ground will have 10 gauge wire, for the most part. I mean, you've still got, a little bit of kind of factory wiring you're going into, the smaller gauge, the wiring from the actual like terminals of the pump down into the pump are probably only 14 gauge, so you've still got some small wiring, but at least for the majority of it, it's going to help, make sure you've got good voltage flow, good amperage, all that good stuff. All right, so I got my wire, my power wire ran. So here it is right here on our battery on a little connector. And then you can see I just labeled fuel pump on our little fuse. And then I've just got it kind of running where a lot of my other stuff runs, going under the car, I think just to about right here at the trans cross member thing, and then it kind of crosses back over, follows the fuel line the rest of the way back, and then it's ending up with the relay right by the fuel filter. So I'll crawl under there and show you guys. All right, so with this wire, basically I just got it ran like I was telling you guys over here from this side. It crosses over right by like the transmission to the fuel line. So I just got it zip tied around all the fuel lines until we get back here. Move my light. And then yeah, we just got it coming right there by the fuel line. I just got this thing zip tied. I've got kind of a loom temporarily, but I think the way this is going to live is we'll probably zip tie it between these two holes here, and then these wires will hang down. These will go to the original power and ground. So the one power will be now a trigger wire. The ground will be the ground for the relay. This will be our new power that's coming up from the battery, you know, going through the relay. And then the ground wire, I'm actually in the process of making it, but the ground is going to go to this chassis bolt right here that goes to the actual frame rail. So I'm going to go get some stuff, clean this up, and then that's where we'll bolt that to. And then I'm leaving enough wire, you know, so it can hang down, you know, at least as far as like this thing. That way when you drop the tank in the future, you know, you've got enough slack and everything for it all. All right, so here's our factory harness. This is the one that goes to the fuel sending unit, and then this guy, this connector would have went to the fuel pump with the positive in the ground, and then this is just a little connector where it goes back up into the car. So what I did is I cut this off. Now we've got a new connector that came with the QFS kit, right, for their hot wire. And so what I'm going to do with the power and the ground again is the ground's going to go to the relay to activate the relay, and the power here is just going to be the switched power for the relay. And then what we're going to do with this is this will be our power wire that's going to be coming from the battery, right? Well, ultimately battery to the relay, and then the other side of the relay delivers that same power right here to the fuel pump. And then this, I'm just going to have kind of a short ground that I think will run somewhere by the fuel filter. So we'll have the 10 gauge wire coming here, and then we'll have some kind of little eyelet or something like this where we can put it around a bolt, some kind of good, you know, good bolt, good ground, and then that'll be knocked out. So pretty simple. It's got a, man, it's all just tedious little work, right? Getting it all crimped and, you know, all that crap. Just like it always is with this freaking project, right? Takes twice as long as you think. All right, so this is going to be our ground wire. So of course it's pink. I just took it from the other side of that really long power wire that we didn't need so long. I'm going to wrap it in black tape. That way at least it's black, right? And I mean, it'll be probably wire loom and stuff anyway, so it won't matter. But I ended up finding this lug that we had left over from another project. So it's a little bit too big, but I think I'll be able to crush it down just fine. It does fit over that bolt, so this should be perfect for us. So we'll get that crimped on to that side. And then this side will go to our black ground on this side. So I'm going to get this kind of all made up, and then that way we can get under the car. We'll crimp this to where it's coming out of the relay for the power, and then we can start getting all this stuff finalized and set up. All right, so we got the ground wire all connected up. We got our little lug on the end here. So actually, I was looking. This actually came with the kit, so this would have also worked. I'll throw this with my pile, but yeah, so I ended up spending 5 minutes looking for this thing, but anyway, so kit comes with it. This is good. Let's get back under the car and let's get all this connected, and then our trigger and grounds connected, and let's start wrapping this crap up. All right, so I took my flap wheel and then ended up hitting this thing up, so now we got some nice bare metal for this thing to go to. So we'll get this all put back together with the ground. All right, so our little harness is complete. So there's our relay. I've got it tucked up here. That's going to be the ground for the actual fuel pump. And then the power and ground and stuff are, you know, the original power and ground for the pump, right? They're going back into the relay. And then here's our new connector and everything with the 10 gauge power and ground. And then this is just the other part of the regular relay. So got it all loomed, got it all taped up and everything. So I'm probably going to go ahead and check it, make sure that this works before I put it all back together. So I'll just cycle the key over, and I'll check for power. I'll just use the power and ground, make sure we got power and ground, all that good stuff, and then we can stick it back together as long as it works. All right, so I was able to cycle the ignition key. I plugged my harness back in, and then before I plugged this back onto the pump, I just verified we had 12 volts on that black and pink wire. We did, and I also used the ground that we're using for the fuel pump ground, as my ground when I tested it. Tested just fine. Actually, it tested to the bolt, which the bolt is, kind of covered in some kind of coating. So going right to the metal of the chassis should be even better. So we should be good to go. So now I'm just starting to set this thing back in here. I've got the car kind of jacked up high from when I was underneath it. So I might actually lower it back down a bit. That way it's kind of less we got to, jack this thing up. So I'm going to kind of play with it, start getting this thing in place, and then we'll try to get it popped back in. I think the hardest thing is going to be just getting that filler tube, slid all the way back in without messing up my nice little gasket. And then we just got to get it all back on, put the straps on, all that stuff. I also ended up picking up some E85 yesterday, so I got like 4.5 gallons of E85. When I talked to the tuner, he said, let's start with E85. So I'm hiring like a remote tuner just because we only have a week left. The local shops did not have, they're like a month out, right, to get someone in. So found a remote tuner, and so he's going to work with me this Sunday. So I've got to kind of have the car ready by Sunday. Today's Friday early morning. So I've got to wrap up this fuel system, and then I want to see if I can get the exhaust fixed so that we don't have this exhaust sticking out of potentially the hood. So I've got some pieces coming, I think, today from Amazon, some more 3-inch bends so I can try to get that cut, chopped up, welded. And then I've also got some leaks that I've just got to quickly tighten up. That'll be no big deal. Some an oil leak I got to get under there and get taken care of. And then some of the radiator stuff was leaking, some of the clamps. So I've just got to tighten all that stuff down. I also figured before I lower the car back down, I wanted to put on this kind of mid-pipe piece here. This is part of the On3 turbo setup. So basically it just joins the two pipes here, and then it goes into one pipe. And then on this other side back there, they've also got a little plate you can remove to have just, if you want to just like go to the track and have an open dump, you can just bypass the mufflers and the rest of the exhaust, have an open dump right there, and then put it back on and keep driving. So wanted to get that in place. All right, so got tank all in place. I got the fuel lines connected back up there. I also disconnected this little exhaust hanger over here. It was just one bolt, like 10 millimeter. That way I can move this. I was able to get a couple inches of this thing being over, and I think that'll help. I also lubed up our little gasket, and I lubed up the actual pipe. You can see the oil. I just put some, 10W30 or whatever, just to help that slide in. So I'm going to try to get this thing jacked up a bit, try to slide this side in first, of course. Hopefully it just slides right in, goes over where it needs to, and then it'll be easy to get underneath it and get this thing all done. I did actually dump the fuel out. Dumped a bunch of gas out into one of my gas cans. So there's only probably like a gallon maybe in this thing. So now it's way, way lighter. So I should be pretty easily able to pick it up and get it in. So let's see what we can do. All right, so we got fresh fuel, 4.5 gallons plus whatever was in there, so maybe 5 gallons or so. See if we can hear the pump. And it's working, baby. Oh yeah, you can hear it just shoot right up to the rails too. Awesome, so we are pressurized. Let's check fuel pressure. Let's see, what do we got? Oh wow. Way higher than the old pump. Holy cow, this is shooting out, we're holding steady at like, I don't know, 60, 70 PSI, where normally this would be 45 PSI with the old pump. So we'll have to adjust that. Looks like we got no leaks, so we did a good job. Now, I won't know if our seal that we did is fixed until I top this thing off, but hopefully it should be good. It slid right in there pretty easily when I was putting the tank back in. Getting the whole tank back in was really pretty simple. I did it by myself, like you guys saw, and it was pretty easy. I mean, a little back and forth, and it slid right on there with that oil. So I would definitely use some kind of lubricant when you guys put that back on. But yeah, I would say fuel system is a wrap. So again, guys, if you're building a high-powered Mustang or other vehicle, I would definitely look at Quantum Fuel Systems, QFS. They have pretty affordable stuff, and it's compatible with the 85, which is why I wanted to use it. And again, I went with this big old 525 pump. Just that way, I'm hoping my fuel system will be kind of overbuilt for the future. If I ever go with like a 351, or I end up building some kind of different, 5-liter block that's stronger, and I can go 700-800 horsepower, I wanted to have the fuel system be ready with the 80-pound injectors, the 525. The only thing I still have to fix or upgrade in the future will be the metal line. So I'll upgrade those to probably 8 AN, at least 8 AN feed, 6 AN return, or maybe even 10 AN feed, 8 AN return, something like that. But anyway, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Hopefully this video helps you out. Like, share, subscribe. Check out all the other videos. We're getting up to like 86 videos on this car. I bought this thing bone stock almost exactly 1 year ago, maybe 11 months is where we're at. And this thing was bone stock, I mean, down to the air filter, down to the exhaust. And we've done a whole bunch of stuff. So check those videos out.